Morning.
Morning. Morning, Roger. Morning. How you doing? Good. Getting fired up here. Be there.
Well, you would, well, maybe people on Zoom would be able to see this, but I can see it.
Well, huh, huh, yeah, I could send them your email.
Yeah, I'll give you
Let me double check to make sure that's your email. I have
yeah.
Since been emailing back and forth. I assume.
These people wanted to, um, you know, maybe say, hey, how about this? Is this in the Bible?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, they should bring that up in class.
Yeah, that's how much stuff. So, first of all, what subject should I start with? Should I just start right? Someone said,
No,
who you guys? You need to first find out where people are.
exactly.
In terms of, what you're talking about before you just, make assumptions. Dive right in.
Yep.
So,
That's the same email I have. Okay.
okay.
I guess I better put some chairs up. Looks like. Like it, that group. So.
Yeah.
The ten customer will take care of us. Morning. We're very excited about this new class that we're getting today. Problems.
Yeah, that's what I got.
Check my phone. People are trying to get in. The problem is that the first service goes over, the people have to get their coffee before they come up. So they don't know, like Roger, you can get your coffee right here. Yeah. I don't know it personally. No, I used to. Good morning. Good morning. What did you do to everybody? I don't know. Not only that, all the chairs were stacked up.
I'm leaving early, so don't think that, it's because of you. Good morning.
Well, one person won't be here anymore, because she's in North Carolina.
Is Claire left already?
That's what I heard 2 weeks ago.
Oh, he was here yesterday,
Oh, she was?
but maybe she's not coming because she's packing.
Yeah.
So I do.
Oh, yeah, we'll talk about that. That's what we're doing.
I know what's happening.
Yeah, I thought 2 weeks ago, someone said she had already left. If she was here, that's, maybe she realized that that was a mistake. It's Richard. Yeah, but see, Richard was here that 2 weeks ago, but she wasn't.
But she wasn't in Carolina yet.
She drives Richard in normal. Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Yeah, but he can take.
No, it's her.
They have ways of getting.
Yeah.
But he's going with her, so.
Was he? Oh.
But maybe she's going in advance to get this. Then coming back.
Yeah, I don't know where in North Carolina. It wasn't Charlotte. It's far away. But we have family, so. You actually know something about it. You might get a chance to see the two oldest grandchildren because they've been here before. They live north of Charlotte.
Good morning. Morning.
Morning. Morning, Terry.
I went in.
Oops, I got another event. Who Campbell.
Yeah, you're the choir.
No,
He does the video. Oh, I'm doing security. Okay.
Right.
Everybody's like, yeah.
I'll be here to make sure you go to.
Let's wait another minute, give people a chance to get in.
You know why? You know why that doesn't show up is because I can't close those blinds enough. There's too much light coming in from the east, and there's so the thing's adjusting for that.
Oh, well, it's. Don't worry about it.
Or try it.
I thought, maybe just the people on Zoom will be able to see, but it's like, I can't see what's going on. So,
And I sent her an email out to you folks. So.
yeah, it still doesn't. Still doesn't.
Oh yeah, see it now. Oh, no, there.
Oh. Yeah. Right. Well, next time I'll bring the old fashioned. No.
Oh, they have those here. I can ask Carolyn to have that for you.
Just thinking, when we here, maybe, But yeah, then instead of this, let's use a flip chart and see if I need it next week, I probably don't. So.
You're all set. Awesome.
Well, we didn't have we didn't have thumb drives or DVDs.
Me, I'd still be working with Planet Right. Good morning, everybody. I'm Taylor Sweringen. And when John asked me, hey, would you like to do a class for us? I was thinking, well, gee, what on? I mean, these people, they know so much. It's like, what can I possibly do with them? So we thought about a topic that might be fun. And I said, how about things people think are in the Bible? Okay. And he said, that's pretty cool. So I went back through old papers and old books and, like saying, maybe this isn't as light as I think it is. So, the way to get started, and for you all who are on Zoom too, is when you saw what the topic of this class was going to be, tell me, what you thought, and maybe some expectations, because we're going to be together for a while, aren't we, John? Like April and May, right? So, I'd like to make sure that what I touch on at least addresses, maybe some questions that you have. So I've seen your faces. I know that's Roger because he came early. But so like if you would just go around, tell me your name, and if nothing in particular, you can say I can.
I'm Kathy Nogin, and I'm a deacon here, and we've been going to church here for 21 years.
Okay.
Cindy Campbell Morris. Thought maybe it would be good to know what I don't know. Or a little bit more.
Your name. Hey, Bob. When you saw this was the topic for the class, what flashed through your mind? What went through your mind? Anything?
Reading all that stuff. Somebody said, I didn't understand it.
Okay. I'll let you go now.
Diane Fleming, I've been here about 5 years. And, I think it's always interesting to think about what keeps people away from Christianity. And a lot of it has to do with things that have to do with Christianity that they think aren't what you have to do to be a Christian.
Now, let's see. We've got Roy, Sue, and who is that?
Margie.
Margie.
Yeah.
So, Marjorie?
Marjorie,
Roy or Sue or Marjorie, you said?
yep.
Yes. Oh, okay.
So, anything, when you saw that this was the topic,
She's signing.
somebody off. What was your mind? Oh, when you think of some things that you wonder, well, is that really in the Bible? So Roy or Sue, you're on mute. So if you're saying something, we can't hear you.
Oh, she's off mute.
This is Sue. I took myself off mute, but I was just sort of interested when I got John's notice about what we were going to be talking about, and I didn't have anything in particular that I was interested in, but I was interested I was interested in what he had put online as a description of the class.
Which is Anna's description. Yes.
Okay, Anna's description then. I'm sorry, Anna.
Oh, that's okay. I'm willing to share. Okay. How about you, Roy? Okay.
Well, we were talking, and then Anna said to me in the first Sunday in January, Matthew taught because we had a little logistics issue. And he mentioned that the rapture was not in the Bible. And Anna says, that sounds like a good topic. And I go, well, the Trinity's not there. So she showed me this list last week, topics we covered. And so, as a little boy going to Sunday school, of course, we've told all that stuff. So anyway, I don't I'm excited.
Okay.
Very easy. I can't think of anything that I particularly.
So far, I won't disappoint anybody. How about you, Roger?
I'm Roger Floyd. Been doing here. I started in late 2019, just before the pandemic. So I was out for, so I came back and started up again. But when I read the title of your talk, I was like you. I thought there would be a lot of things that we think of as being in the Bible, but they're not really. The Bible is so old, and it's been used in so many different ways. I would think that there'd be a lot of stuff being in the Bible, or it's not in the Bible that we think is, because there's so many different interpretations.
Yeah, like it depends on what version of the Bible are you reading, right? There's this site online called Bible Gateway. They have 63 different versions of the Bible. 63. And I'm thinking to myself. And that does not include Thomas Jefferson's version of the New Testament, where he leaves out all the miracles. So, yeah, it depends on what Bible you're reading.
Jane Harris. So when I read the description, I was intrigued, and like Diane, I thought, well, we should probably be a little more educated about how these things evolved. You know, how did people get to where they were saying, oh yeah, that's in the Bible? Where did that come from? So I thought that would be interesting historically.
That one first. Good morning. Good morning. Oh, better late than never. Yeah. That's my one. I hope that's right.
Bruce Smith, been here, I don't know, something like 8 years.
He's not a member, by the
The whole historical thing is really interesting. I didn't think about that a whole lot. How the early church, as a rule, I mean, there's all kinds of things. There's the Nicene Creed and all these things that we repeat that every week. Not quite every week, but, but a lot of it, it's not necessarily, even that stuff, it's not in the Bible. And I just been thinking about that. And then there's the whole Revelation thing that gets interpreted and squirted out the side, I mean, it goes all different kinds of places depending on who you're talking to. And there's a whole lot. When I first saw they've been talking. He's always bringing up the heaven and hell thing, right? And there's a lot of things that are just that get twisted, if you will, and that whole early church thing, who decided and when did they decide? And I'm curious about that. It's hard to come up with good sources for that, but that's kind of off to the side.
We'll be kind of delving into that today. That's why I call today first things first. Like, where is everybody starting? So that's what we're doing. Where you're saying your names for me because I'm the new kid on the block. And when you saw the topic, what went through your mind? Because I want to make sure that our discussion meet some expectations. So tell me your name.
Oh, my name is Kathy Rhodes, and when I saw the topic, I started thinking of things because we frequently do say, we think it came from the Bible, and it didn't. So I find that interesting, and I feel there are contradictions in the Bible, and so I think it makes me say, what do I believe of the within and between these contradictions?
I'm Stephen Rhodes, and as far as I know, Shakespeare was not an author of one of the books of the Bible. He is often if he's talking about it. He would quote something from one of his plays. Say, you know, that's about us. And I would say no. And then and so I just spellbound by how many times Shakespeare is quoted to me.
Holy mackerel, that is just as I was telling John as I was preparing for this, I'll share with you my background and my journey. You might say I'm an ecumenical mutt. Okay. There have been so many different churches, denominations in my life that when I came to the point of going to seminary and learning things I never learned before, I didn't have the it's like shut down, it's like, because I've been in so many different spaces where things were similar or totally different, that was like, well, yeah, the church is a big tent. I can deal with that. So when I went to, I did not expect to be surprised by some things that are in the Bible, but have been appropriated, right? In a way that I never knew. For instance, like I love singing For Unto Us a Child is Born, but it took me to go to seminary to learn, hey, you've been taught that's about Jesus. But contextually, that might have been about King Cyrus. Okay. And it's like, here I am, 30 years old in seminary. What? When I then went into a church and was put in charge of confirmation classes, I was thinking, you know what? There's got to be a way for me to share this information with these young people so that by the time they're 30, they're already thinking with an open mind and understanding, there are different ways that people read the Bible, understand the Bible, but, you've got to think for yourself. So I was looking for someone because I couldn't give them my statement, right? Maybe but instead I found this company called Channing Beat. And they put out these scriptographics, right? That just like, so I said, well, at least it looks like a cartoon, so they'll read it. But gave them the basic information. So the two that I use with them are the Bible and you, and how the Bible came to us. So I always start with Bible basics, right? There are 66 books in the Old Testament together, the Protestant one, right? You got a Catholic one, you got 7 more books that we don't have, the Apocrypha in the Old Testament, right? That it was written over about 1,000 years. So from, if you want to be chronological, from Genesis to Revelation, 1,000 years passed. So don't be reading this book like you think it's the newspaper. And that the context is that these are 66 books written by different communities in different places for different reasons. So, to your point, Kathy, right, about contradictions, well, yeah, if you got all these different communities with their different takes on the text, it would be a miracle if they all agreed. But the issue is, let me pull out my little historical thing here, that the need to be right, okay, to be the winner, to be the one that has all the morals, gets into this discourse and keeps it from being civil, respectful. It's like, oh, I see your point. I don't agree with it, but at least I see it. And so, you know, I thought, well, if that's one little gift I could give to these confirmands who once they get confirmed will never probably knock on my door again, but maybe this seed will, you know, plant a little seed to get them thinking. So I'm like raring to go, and then Holy Week comes. And somebody sent me a meme that said, guess what he's selling now? I said, and so I open it and it's Donald Trump with a Bible. And I go, well, at least he's not posting in front of a church that he doesn't go to. But then the question is that the first woman that, but this Bible contains the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution as well as the Bible. And he's selling it for $60. And like my, you know, like my separation of church and state soul kind of shriveled. It's like the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence inside the Bible. What? You know, like, so then I had to like, okay, Anna, where's your tolerant attitude, respect? So I said, well, this course will help me have a little fun and get off of my old evangelical highs. So what it brought up for me, and what I want to read from this excerpt from a sermon. When I became a member of Riverside Church, part of our membership class was, you know, the history of Harry Emerson Fosdick and that church, and how it is that Harry Emerson Fosdick the pastor of that church. And basically, it was in reaction to a sermon that he gave in May 1922 called Shall the Fundamentalists Win? And what had happened was from maybe like, there were these books, these 12 books called The Fundamentalists, that basically defended every doctrine in the Bible that at that time, people who were called modernists, who were bringing historical criticism to read the Bible, were saying, well, wait, first birth, the idiot, right? What? Bodily resurrection. And the fundamentals were saying, yes, 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 and here's one. So by 1922, Fosdick is at senior pastor of the First Presbyterian Church on 12th Street, still there. And he gives this sermon called Shall the Fundamentalists Win? I just want to read you some excerpts of it. He based, his scripture was Gamaliel talking to the Jewish leaders who wanted to punish the Christians for what they were saying. Gamaliel saying, hey, you better watch out. If what they're talking about is from men, it'll fall on its own. But you better watch out, because if it's from God, you're in trouble. So that was the text. So here's what, and he is commenting on the battle between fundamentalists of his time and who were called them. So, a scene suggested for our thought is depicted in the 5th chapter of the book of Acts, where the Jewish leaders have before them Peter and the other apostles, because they have been preaching Jesus as the Messiah. Moreover, the Jewish leaders propose to slay them. When in opposition, Gamaliel speaks, refrain from these men and let them alone. For if this counsel or this work be of men, it will come to naught. But if it be of God, you cannot overthrow it, lest haply you be found even to fight against God. We, however, face today a situation too similar and too urgent and too much in need of Gamaliel's attitude to spend any time making guesses at superstitious history. Already, all of us must have heard about the people who call themselves fundamentalists. Their apparent intention is to drive out of the evangelical churches men and women of liberal opinion. I speak of them the more frequently because there are no two denominations more affected by them than the Baptists and the Presbyterian. We should not identify the fundamentalists with conservatives. The best conservatives can often give lessons to the in true liberty of spirit, but the fundamentalist program is essentially illiberal and intolerant. The fundamentalists see, and they see truly, that in this last generation, there have been strange new movements in Christian thought. A great mass of new knowledge has come into man's possession. New knowledge about the physical universe, its origin, its forces, its laws, new knowledge about human history, and in particular, about the ways in which the ancient peoples used to think in matters of religion, and the methods by which they phrased and explained their spiritual experiences. And new knowledge also about other religions and the strangely similar ways in which men's faith and religious practice have developed everywhere. We must be able to think our modern life clear through in Christian terms. And to do that, we also must be able to think our Christian life clear through in modern terms. So it goes on, right? Now, what's ironic is, what I remember from my Riverside membership class history is that year at the General Assembly, because Boston was a Baptist, him being the senior pastor of First Presbyterian Church was like, get that Baptist heretic to convert or get him out of that pulpit. And so Boston resigned. And at that point, John D. Rockefeller Jr. came to him and said, we would like you to be our pastor. We're moving up to Riverside. So basically they built that book. And his only criteria was, well, first he said, well, I don't know. I mean, I'm thinking about all the people who criticize me because of your money. And then Rockefeller is forward to said, and you think I don't have an equal number criticizing me about your theology? So it's like a match made in heaven. Anecdotal from what I learned in Riverside, right? But here, this is what's being said in 1922. Right? 62 years ago. And the controversy is still going on. I'm in a book study now, where this guy, Brian McLaren, he wrote a book, Do I Stay Christian?
We actually had him here.
Oh, yeah.
He did a sermon, and he went one of the, I'm not sure what, I can't remember what book he did. You remember?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
Well, this one came out in the last year of the book.
Oh, no, this was before that.
And basically, he is still talking to the evangelical church, the way Fawcett is talking. In the first part of the book, he gives you like 12 reasons why you shouldn't. Why you should leave. The second part, 12 why you should stay. And now finally we've gotten to the point where, okay, we know we want to stay. How do we do this? That's part 3. And so in this class, I want us to have some fun. I cringe when I see Donald Trump talking Bibles or anybody using religion in a selfish way. But the more I think we're able to not laugh, but at least listen to those things that, like, we said we read it in the Bible, or like I said, Shakespeare quotes. So, no, it's not. That's from Merchant of Venice.
Yeah.
Then it's easier, I think, to not get all caught up in having to be the winner. Right? It's like, no, that's not in the Bible. The books and articles that I'm using to help compile this class say, well, either it's translation, so that somebody has put their particular slant, or the words are wrong, or, well, what it is a compilation. They pick from this book, pick from that book, and then they come up with this belief or saying, and then they say, well, that means it's in the Bible. And so for me, in this class, what I want us to do is to think about why, what is it about that phrase? It's in the Bible. What gives that phrase its power? Because there's things in the Bible that is part of the concern. Shouldn't be. All right? I mean, like, we talk all the time, well, Luke was in the Bible and it shouldn't be. Like, slaves, obey your masters, right? Or the Sodom and Gomorrah story, with the angels comes to Lot's house, and they want to know the men, King James knows. And he goes, no, don't take these men, take my daughter. What? What is it about that phrase that gives it power? Yeah, it's in the Bible. So why shouldn't my response be, well, so what? Why shouldn't we? So it's in the Bible, so what? And I think it's more about what kind of authority do you give to sacred text and why? How much of it has been just because that's what you were taught, right? How much of it is fear of what the United Church of Christ is always accused of? Anything goes. So we don't want to be accused of anything goes. There's got to be a standard somewhere, right? So my own journey with the Bible, I look at what is my relationship to the Bible? What is your relationship to the Bible? How do you use it in your life and why? What parts of the Bible do you avoid? Which one do you turn to for what? Right?
Well, we know, Steve, it's the Romans.
Romans, you all on Zoom is what Stephen said. I mean, John said that, and Stephen confirmed. So I mean, that I want you all, when you come into the class, to tell me, where's that list, John? I'll try to, the ones that we picked so far, right? Adam's rib, the fall of Satan, the rapture, had like 8 or 9 of them. But things that you can find in translations, that phrase, Adam's rib. But what a misconstruing of that whole text. But, it continually gets put into Sunday school curricula, right? You still get those posters of a man from the waist down and a woman hidden by a bush. That puts into people's heads, you're talking about 2 particular human beings rather than stand-ins for humanity. But if you don't know the original word, if you don't do contextual study, then, somebody comes up to you who's against gay and lesbian Christians and says, oh, it's Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. What do you say? Because somebody that says something like that, that they still have that imprint of Adam and Eve as these 2 human beings from which all of humanity sprouted. Right? Now I know there was a time where I believed that. But why and where did I grow out of that? Why and where did I need to grow out of that? Because, we believe what we believe until we don't need to believe in it. As we grow and go through different life experiences, things that gave us comfort and security no longer do, because they don't make sense. I worked with a church, a young guy, there was David Kinnaman. I used to work with a lot of evangelical churches. And why don't people believe in us? Why? And he wrote this book called You Lost Me. And his point was, because you don't believe in science. So why should I turn my brain off when I come into the door? You don't believe in science. you think you're the only way. Well, I think, you know, my Muslim friend is not going to hell because they don't say Bill of Rights for spiritual laws. Okay, so I mean, this is continual need to be the one who wins. And I'm hoping that our discussion in this class about these topics will, if we got it, loosen us up, or in my case, maybe make me a little more tolerant of people who are where I was. And help us just be, I don't know, we really need to have some fun these days, especially in church. So long as we have fun with it, right?
Sunday morning.
So share with me, like, what has been your journey with the Bible? You know, what has been your experience?
It's you know, when you grow up, I mean, you're a child, and you know, you said you kneel at your bedside and pray and say, God is great, God is good. That's never look. You know the drill. And you know, you go to Sunday school, and you get this stuff, you know, you get this real basic, I mean, fundamental stuff. And it is a journey. It's a long journey and at this point, where I come down at this point is the reason I'm here this morning, the reason I look at the Bible, it's because it works in my life. It makes my life work. And there's all kinds of things I tend to ignore, right? And, that a lot of people have strong, like you say, with the lesbian. It's and abortion's a huge one, right? I mean, there's all kinds of things in this technical world. 1822 was right about when Niels Bohr, and that's crazy stuff, you know. That's really crazy science, you know. It's hard to swallow. But you know, like I say, it kind of tends to make my life work. You know, that's the bottom line in my estimation at this point in time. And there are lots of things. If you listen to some of the fundamentals, I guess that different definition than it was in those days, but some of them come up with some really crazy stuff. I mean, the rapture is a good one, you know. All these cars crashing into whatever, you know. But you know, those things just don't work for me at all. I mean, I don't see anything wrong with ignoring some of that stuff. And you know, I can pick stuff right out of the Bible and say that's not for me, you know. And of course, you alluded to it. You know, the Bible was written roughly 1,000 to 2,000 to 3,000 years ago, more or less, and in different languages. It's translated differently by different people in different contexts, different background beliefs, you know, and it's something that can work for anybody. You don't have to assign the standard stuff to it. Whatever works, that's mine. Whatever makes your life good, you know, and by and large, the Bible is full of good advice. It's almost all good advice, but some of it is hard to get around or whatever.
And the point is not to get around it, but to acknowledge and be aware. Well, here it is, and here's one.
The other thing is that, you know, for somebody living in the mountains in Tennessee, it's a whole different thing than when I was living in San Francisco or Hong Kong. You know, those are different contexts, and that's fine. You know, it should work for anybody. You know, and it does work for a whole lot of different people in different ways, right? So, yeah, be tolerant. Tolerance is really important.
I think one of the things you pointed out when you were talking about different geographic regions is that in many cases, people become bound to their local community. And if they haven't traveled or they haven't met other people to encounter other ideas, they consider them invalid because they hadn't worked with the concept. And it makes it very hard. I'm from Tennessee. And you know, I can tell you there were a lot of things growing up that were very fundamental. My grandfather was Presbyterian minister, Cumberland Presbyterian minister. And, you know, I couldn't live with some of those boundaries in my adult life because I went to a lot of different schools and various languages and moved all over the country. And but at the same time, it's very easy for us to dismiss somebody who's different from us. And it really takes an effort to listen and to appreciate what is wonderful about that person and not get totally lost. Voted how can they think this? And you know, I find the Bible, I guess you pick and choose what is helpful to you as you grow up. You let go of some things, and you know, I've let go of the fundamental ideas or things that you know they counter science, like the virgin birth. I think that's kind of a hard one to get around with your biology teacher, but it's you know, it's. I think the important thing is these stories, they are really universal stories about life. If you could get beyond the literal interpretation, and they are ways to guide your thinking. And I think one reason the Bible is a comfort to you is that your brain was structured with these stories as a child. And so we have this framework of how we think. And we have things from childhood that tell us whether something's right or wrong. And it's really hard when you meet somebody else that hasn't had that framework and they're up against, you know, your logic and their logic is not necessarily the same. But the point that I think that Christianity needs to strive for is that I think compassion, caring, nurturing are such important things that we learn from the stories of Jesus. And these are the things that we really need to think about carrying forward because they're helpful and they're not always necessarily how we want to live our life, you know, to maybe sacrifice something or to stop and talk to that homeless person. But you know, this is what was modeled for us. And this calls us to think about and
I moved to Hong Kong for a few years, so really
I'm sure
drive that home, you know.
I'm sure I can remember being
Yeah.
going past churches in the graveyard, and there were some very fundamental religions,
Yeah.
Christian religions, and seeing some things too. So going like, oh my gosh.
Well, it's early. It's early in the Christian journey in China. You know, and it was, you know, 1922 and 1850 were early in the Christian journey for this country too. I mean, it'd been there for a long time, but it was understood at different levels.
Bob, you look very well.
So the older I get, the more I want to say, the better what you believe, the better what I do. And nobody's perfect. That includes every single person that's ever walked here.
Yeah.
And that's what I'll be judged by. I mean, I have been to Presbyterian for years. I grew up in one of those. We can't teach children if they're and blah, blah, blah. My outlook has changed.
Well, you couldn't teach school if you were pregnant.
Oh,
You had to send it. Well, that's supposed to be showing.
I have a story about that from my family. My grandfather and my grandmother met and got married in Austin, Texas. This would have been in the 20s, 1920s. And they were both teaching at the time. Well, that wasn't done. That wasn't done. And my grandfather had applied to be the dean of the engineering college there. But they looked down on the scandal because these two teachers had gotten married. And my grandmother got pregnant with my father at the time. They had to leave Austin. Love it. After that, because of those beliefs and holdings, which thankfully most of us don't hold these tenets anymore. But yeah.
I might say that her grandfather's has a building named after him on the campus. It's the engineering building. It's called the Ferris Engineering Building.
Go back to what Bob's saying, you know, it's not about what you believe, it's about what I believe and what I believe.
Yeah.
Right? And, you know, as I'm looking through these old books, I'm what I appreciate mostly is how, you know, they share about these things and then talk about, well, here's how it's being used to harm people. So even if it was in the Bible, we shouldn't be using it because we're not supposed to be harming people. And the piece that he was talking about was about attitude and how in the churches that he's been around, his father, how that has been used to justify the subjugation of women in their church. It's like, you know, you're not his equal, you came from his rib, therefore you're subordinate to him, you're not side by side, you can't, you know, and so, you know, as I read these books again now, years and years later, I'm seeing what they're trying to do is, like you said, try to get people thinking to be more compassionate, to be more loving, to be, you know, what I always feel, Jesus model. I mean, I had a member of a church that, you know, she was a deacon, and I was on staff, and she laid this woman out in church, like, Mercedes, come here. You work outside the church. How does this speak to her like this? And do you know what she pulled out of the Bible? The time that Jesus was in the temple and turned the tables over. And that was her justification to let her rage. Like, well, Jesus turned over the table with righteous anger, and I'm like, okay. One time Jesus turns the tables, but all the other times about love your neighbor and do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Love your neighbor as yourself. I mean, like, you're gonna tell me that one incident has equal weight with all the other things that Jesus talked about being selfish and caring for others first? So, you know, again, back to Bob's point, you know, it's like, what do you believe? Why do you believe? How you So let's try to have some fun with this class. Okay. Good. Good. Anybody want to say anything? You look very.
I looking back.
No.
We go to eat, and the tour guide says, this pharaoh lived 5,000 years ago. And they built a pyramid for him. He put a pyramid in him, and it was so that he could have eternal life. And I went, whoa, they were searching for the same thing we are searching for. And their answer was their gods would take the pharaoh, put him in a boat, and take him to the life of eternal life. Now, we believe they're wrong.
They got to take all their boats.
Yeah. Yeah, you needed food and you needed money. And I just went, they're searching for the same thing we're searching for 5,000 years later. What is the answer? what, is there something more than just this physical human existence? What happens after we die? They were asking the same questions we were. And we look at them and say, that's silly that they believed this and that. And so maybe, I don't know, it's just an eternal struggle to understand who we are in relationship to the
It's real hard to realize people are conscious, you know, your consciousness exists. And then if you die, it's just gone. If there's nothing else, right? If there's nothing else, it's just gone. For all of us, you know. I mean, here I had all these great ideas, and I was smart, and so was this other person that just got here. And is that just gone now? I mean, and that's hard to swallow.
That's why we write it down.
Matthew had told this story, and probably everybody remembers it, or most of us, about an outside being, as we have this edifice here, that's the quintessential church, takes good pictures with everything. They wanted to get married. They were outsiders, right? And the two of them came in with a preacher who would say the ceremony, and the ceremony included that the woman shall be obedient to her husband, right? And Matthew said, well, that's fine. That's a great line, right? From the Bible, right? But there's another line right next to it, you know, that says the husband should be obedient to his wife, right? And that's, you know, that's how to live your life. That's, you know, if you're fighting with your wife or your husband, if you're bucking them all the time, you're going to have trouble. You know, that's going to run you into trouble. So anyway, the idea was you can pick stuff out of the Bible, but, you know, and if you leave the rest of it changes the whole thing. It really changes the chemical.
Satan in Jesus' temptation was quoting from the Bible. His temptations were from the Bible. Well, they were out of context. He had his own interpretation, but we know how you can take the Bible and say it's from the Bible. Right? Jesus responded with God's truth, not literally the devil's interpretation.
Yeah. So let's not try to be the devil. Taking me back to context.
I think one of the things that really has been harmful by that whole concept of love, honor, and family is I was asked if I wanted to say that. My husband was not asked. My sister said, no, you want to do this other one about root and family or something. You don't want to obey, do you? And so I didn't, but it was, I think it gives people the sense that wife is supposed to obey the husband, and it is then an excuse for domestic violence in a sense to justify it. This is my word. Say you do, and that has been used really corrupt.
Because like I said, like, I mean, the husband is told, you are to love your wife the way Jesus loved the church. So I was like, hey,
Wait a minute, there was another church.
not the church, whatever. The way Jesus looked, yeah. Yeah. So, well,
One of the problems with tolerance is that you get affected by it. And I think that's one of the things that fundamentalists are afraid of. If you start being tolerant of this, you're going to start believing. So people are saying, well, I observed the whole thing in reverse with my mother after my folks retired from the mission field of India, just southern West Virginia. And they were basically isolated in a community that was pretty reactionary. And my mom started to get that way because she was being tolerant to people who really felt that way. And how do you relate to people if that's all there is? You're not tolerant of them, you're
not gonna have any friends. And you don't speak against things that all your friends are saying. Eventually, my brothers and I just said to dad in particular, you gotta get her out of here. And so they did, they moved to Florida. It was somewhat better.
Well, I want to leave you all with this last thought, to that point. Murray Bowen, who developed systems theory, talks about being a non-anxious presence. And what that means is that you can be amongst your friends who are saying things that are intolerant, but you're not fused with them to the point that you have no identity, you don't agree with them. You can say, like you just said, you believe that, I don't believe that. And you're comfortable in your own skin when you say that. You're not judging them. You're not saying I'm better than you or I'm less than you. I'm just saying that's where you are and that's your boundary. Here's where I am and here's my boundary. And if we can develop being non-anxious presence, then that's when love has a chance to come. Because then we're not being tolerant, right? Because there's a judgment right there. I'm going to tolerate you, for your belief. Well, who are you to tolerate me?
So what did you say?
Non-anxious. Yes, a non-anxious presence. Right. Be a non-anxious presence. Like, practice active listening. Right? Don't jump in thinking you have to be the person to solve or fix this issue. Be your non-anxious self.
That's a great thing to say. It's a great thing to be, and it's whatever. And it's what you develop into. You think critically about life, and you get to be 70 years old or so, and you've got it figured out, But there's a whole lot of people that don't get the training, if you will, or whatever. Boy, it sure seems like the world is full of those people right now. There's just a whole lot of angst.
Yeah, well, but that's the human condition, right? It's like, you can play the farmer in the dell and the cheese stands alone at the end, but who wants to be the cheese standing alone? And so you try to find, comfort with others. You find, and sometimes, but you have to, I think, begin to grow to the point and the place where you love yourself more than you love your fear. And that's a lifetime. That takes a lifetime. So next week, what shall we have fun with? Shall it be Adam's Rib? Okay, next week, Adam's Rib.
She's gonna send me a rule for which I'll send out to everybody. But you got the main concept.
And if you think of, if this is stirring up things for you, email me and say, hey, how about this one? How about that one? Okay, so you're not just locked into what, I'm fine. And John, you put my email in the next.
Yes, right. Yeah.
Well, thanks for trusting me.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
John, I won't be here next week.
You won't, but you can report.
So I'll be in Boston. I'm running the marathon.
You are?
So I'm not sure I'll be available.
No, that means it's gonna be.
Oh, you're gonna.
It's gonna be on YouTube.
Oh, okay. So.
Send me a note on that. I'll dig out the YouTube link.
Oh, okay, good.
Maybe post it about Tuesday.
Okay.
Granddaughter's gonna come out in May, and she said, I can't come the first week of May because I'm running a half marathon. So I was worried that she's right now she's in north of Charlotte.
The crocodile used to get.
Oh,
the crocodiles.
I think she's,
And they worship the
she
god.
should decide where she's
Not
not
maybe
Yale,
crocodiles.
the graduate school, or
Then when it's
so her teachers are too.
What is she studying? Very good.
Environmental, her undergraduate is environmental science.
They did. They figured out.
Now she wants to do environmental business.
We learned a lot about him. You know.
Yeah, right. I kind of thought. I think that's a big. Better shut this down.
Is there a list there?